economic environment. Neither are we in the same position. We are here to discuss issues through a no-holds-barred process. I will be as basic as possible so that whatever comes out as my own understanding and interpretation of fake news will then subsequently guide the discussion. Why I'm saying this is because I know that scholars have worked on this particular topic. A lot of intellectual discourse has taken place, is still taking place. So much of theoretical postulations have been made, but the sum total of all that has been said, whether from the classroom or whether from professional mass communicators, my own perspective of this, any news that is not any news that is not correct, that is not factual, that is not correct, that is not factual, which is being dished out in order to serve a particular motive. And these motives could be as many as there can be, depending on the number of people who are either sharing the fake news, producing the fake news, being motivated by certain considerations as to why they feel there must be something that should go onto the social, political, and the economic space, which is not true, which is not factual, but which needs to go on to the public space to serve particular purpose. And the purpose, like I said, could be as various as there can be the people behind it.
Before we go on, let me tell you the audience. A number of people may not be able to log in at this minute and all that. This edition is being recorded as always, so it's going to be shared on YouTube in the next, say, 2 hours or so. You'll have all of this shared. Dr. Abari, sorry, let me go back again. If you have questions, you can throw them on Facebook, you can see, and we'll ask your question here. If you can ask your questions, you're live. We'll hear you. Okay. How do I prevent myself from being deceived?
Well, I think it's a tall order. It is a tall order in the sense that we are in an era of infodemic. Just like we are in the era of the COVID pandemic, we are also in the era of infodemic. Meaning that the amount of information that is allowed to flow into both the private and the public space is massive, is big, perhaps, if you ask me, inquantifiable. Then, because we are in the era of infodemic, this infodemic era is also characterized by simultaneity. An issue can just break out here in Nigeria within seconds. It is being reported in Australia. Or somebody in New Zealand, in spite of the time difference, can pick it within minutes. Now, because of the rate at which information travels, as a result of the internet breakthrough, the internet culture in which you are all in now, the challenge of fake news becomes really a big challenge. One, you have just asked the question, how do we stop ourselves from being deceived into sharing fake news, but you cannot stop yourself from receiving fake news. You cannot stop yourself from receiving fake news.
So you're not able to process.
But how? To what extent are you able to process fake news, disaggregated from true news, so that you don't end up being misled? Told order as it is, you can still do it. Like I said, it's difficult. One, institutions have developed means and the processes of fact checking. Institutions have developed means, mechanisms, processes of fact checking. And they have actually enhanced their capacity and the competence level in these mechanisms and the processes of fact checking through collaboration with big information outlets, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and whatnot. We in the National Orientation Agency, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, in fact, really a fortnight ago, we had concluded 2 sessions of training of our communication officers together with Premium Times Center for Investigative Journalism to train our communication officers on how to identify fake news when they see one through the process and the mechanisms of fact. But before then, we had also partnered with CDD, Center for Democracy and Development, to jointly intervene whenever we see fake news coming into our social media platforms, by immediately countering through our fact-checking processes. Now, and this we have found really very helpful, especially at the height of the pandemic. Because a lot of false information, a lot of misinformation, a lot of fake news is being put in daily to congregate and actually around different social media.
I think that this should bring us directly to motives.
No, but then before we go to motives, I still would want to tell you that so if institutions have developed or are developing, because it is still an ongoing process. It is still an ongoing process. Why it is an ongoing process is because whenever you are able to find a way of refusing to be misled into sharing information, merchants of fake news are already a step behind you. So you have to actually up your game. So institutions are trying, but much as they are trying, I can see that because of the motives, which will come later, it is proving to be actually very difficult. So at institutional level, this I can see is happening. At individual level, all you need to do is actually to self-censor yourself. At individual level, self-censor yourself. Read whatever it is that you receive on your WhatsApp platform, what you see on the Facebook page, what you see in your Twitter handle, what you see on the Instagram page, and then go through it carefully and see whether this actually can make sense. Now, this therefore becomes, you are therefore now exposing yourself to either objective or subjective judgment. Because it is not actually the punctuality of the story, the truthfulness in it, that now convinces you as to whether you should share or not share, because you are now bringing in objective or subjective judgment. Yeah. Now, if your judgment is subjective, then definitely your assumptions should actually does not lead to not being misled into this kind of situation. Coming now back to the issue there that you are asking about what that mean. One, profit. Because I'm telling you, it is an era of infodemic. So fake news has become a commodity. Fake news has become a commodity in the hands of communicators. But I still want us to come back a little bit. It is not only on the social media that you see instances of fake news. Even on the conventional media, in the print media, you find fake news. In the newspapers and the magazines, and in the radio and the television screens, you still find fake news. From private sector, you find fake news. In the public space, governments also come out with fake news. So you can, therefore, you are actually faced with a broad spectrum of a problem that has a wide, all-encompassing implication with different stakeholders signifying different stages, of the issue. Government, perhaps for propaganda purposes. Private institutions, perhaps for motives, individual, perhaps for the motive of profit, other institutions, perhaps for motives of profit, others for just the motive of creating social disharmony, to create chaos, and to create disharmony into the minds of people. We have seen that. It has been happening. I'll give you a typical example, like in the case of Nigeria. The most disturbing instance of fake news, which actually, in spite of the absurdity, of the report, in spite of the absurdity of the report, yet has been given credence by even quarters that we discussed, was the case of President Muhammadu Buhari being a clone of one Jibril from Sudan. President Buhari being a clone of a Jibril from Sudan, and the story not only was it shared on the social media with that, there was the funeral of the president that took place, and then the family of the president wearing, melancholic looks, receiving cups, and then beyond that was even accompanied by the death certificate signed by from a given hospital, signed by a given doctor.
Yana sama. Ki je anti Bisha. Kawai dariya take yi. Ga
Me sunan shi.
Is the one? Are you sure it's the one? Are you sure? No beating, you see, it's there. You know. Let me move from that to recently. I read, and I was scared too. I read, on social media that a particular state governor had put a call through to Mr. President while he was in some form of danger, and Mr. President ignored it. In fact, it was written that he was on the call for a few hours, maybe 2 hours or so, and until the man came out by himself about 2 or 3 days later to say, where is that coming from? I never put a call through to anybody. That never happened. That's number one. I read one this past week which says that the nation's vice president was taken into a particular hospital in Lagos. For God's sake, the man did not leave Abuja on this particular day. That makes me ask the question, how come this fake news always comes at a time that something that looks close to it is happening? For example, some people ask the question about Mr. President is not responding, accurately enough to security, and it was that same time something is happening at that same place where the governor was coming from. Doesn't that sound like there is something fishy in there?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we are just going around the same issue over and over. You see, I have spoken about motive. I've spoken about motive. What is the motive behind the forbearance of this fake news? One, in the case of the certain governor that was said to have called the president for 2 hours, well, at a time when his state was on fire or near being on fire, or when the state was facing serious security challenge, and then he was trying to reach the president directly, and for 2 hours there was no response from the president. That the motive goes very much in line and is consistent with what the opposition has always wanted to do. What the opposition is cut out to do, and it has been played out. And what is that? What is the motive? The motive is to show a president who is nonchalant, is to show a president who does not respond to national issues immediately, to show a president who does not care because that part of the country that is being seen to be on fire is the part of the country where the president does not come from, or to show a president who has taken particular more than a passing interest in the conduct of a certain ethnic group that has popularly now been condemned to be the sole perpetrators of crime and criminality in different parts of the country, and this is what we want. And it can come from politicians from across the divide. It could be from within the APC movement, it could be from PDP, it could be from people who are probably and will not belong to any of the two parties, but who actually would want to discredit the personality of an individual, cause confusion, and therefore because there is so much gullibility in the land, it's a simple amount of money, $50,000, $100,000, you can just pay your way and you have this kind of thing. And it populates the social and the political space. This is one. And this just like the same example I gave you about the clone version of the president as the ruler of Sudan. So this is now the second issue is again to show the motive. It could be political, it could be the handwork of people who would want to cause ripple where there is none. Take the typical example of the report which has gone viral that Vice President Osinbajo has been taken into a hospital in Lagos, under critical condition. That's the Vice President is in hospital in Lagos under critical condition. Now, what is the motive? Perhaps enemies of the Vice President would want to cause this to score political points. Two, some would want to say because what was it? The Vice President was taken into a hospital in Lagos because I have seen various forms of that story, after a meal, meaning therefore that it is not maybe what you can have proposed in normal after a meal, maybe your system might not agree with it or something, but the motive will be something like he must have been poisoned after a meal, because for him after a meal to have been taken to a hospital in critical condition, underscores one point, something near life and death situation. So the motive still I'm talking about is that it could be partisan mischief, the job of the opposition, social, political, and economic never-do-wells who can take a pittance and they can send out a lot of such kind of information when they do to cause recruits in the land. So these are all kind of supposed. But then, come to think of it, how do I, for example, shield myself from being disgallant? Because I cannot shield myself from receiving this. I received the story of the Vice President, different versions of the story, about 2 or 3 versions. But you have just made the point. On the day that the story was being reported, that one did not set him out of Abuja. So somebody just sat down there in his own imagination, perhaps motivated by certain interest, or being sponsored by certain interests, to carry that information all will they do to causing social ripples in the polity. A polity that is actually eating up as a result of the big challenges that our office is facing to that time, which is everybody's fault.
I want to say something, but I want to make it brief. You mentioned something about propaganda from the government, and a friend asked, fake news you're talking about is everywhere, even your government use propaganda.
Every government uses propaganda, but a government doesn't have to tell lies. You know, it can use propaganda. Propaganda does not necessarily have to be non-factual information. It doesn't have to be non-factual. I have a lot of things to give you as a propaganda item. You know, okay, it is not a lie that this is one of the most unfortunate governments in the history of this country when it comes to revenue earnings. In fact, the revenue earnings in this government has dipped by more than 50% since it came into office. Yet, it is a government that came against the backdrop of so many promises, against the backdrop of heightened expectations. But by the time it came in, the revenue earnings actually dropped by nearly 60%.
Nearly 65 actually.
You know, by nearly 60%. But this is a government that has infrastructure to rebuild. This is a government that has brought about one of the largest social safety net programs, the biggest in Africa. This is a government that has not retrenched a single individual in spite of the massive redundancy that we see in the civil service. This is a government that has paid the salaries at when due, has paid pensions at when due, had verified pensioners with dignity, and are being paid as when due, salaries paid at when due. This is a government, in spite of the huge revenue grant, has bailed out state governments on so many occasions for them to pay pensions, salaries, you know, current and outstanding, whether they have been doing it or not, we don't know. You know, this is a government that has paid huge liabilities many years. This is the government. So when you bring all of this, these are factual things, you know, are not fake news, they are verifiable. You can call this a propaganda.
I would have thought that propaganda was news that is wrong. It's like a face cover or something like that, or Facebook by the government. But these are facts. These are not.
Okay. Propaganda doesn't have to be fake. It is the way it is. It is the way that it is. It is the way facts are presented. You know, that distinguishes it from fake news.
So if a fact is brought in at the wrong time for an advantage, it becomes propaganda. Oh, okay. I'm getting more understanding myself. I'm bothered by how do we. I'm going to some certain questions, but I'm just building up. I'm bothered by how do we trace back fake news. From where I receive it, how do I trace it back to the original or originator? Is there any means?
Well, for me personally, I don't know. I don't have the competence and the capacity to distinguish, to give you a categorical answer on this. Because if I receive a fake news from a forwarded source, it becomes very difficult for me. I can trace the person who forwarded or who forwards a message to me, but going down the ladder, you will find that it's going to be very difficult. Only, for example, the very beginning of the source of where the thing comes, and this is something which requires high-level technical competence.
On one ground, one ground, I think you should do better. On one ground, there are certain people who read some news. You know, sometimes we have objective minds, subjective minds, but there are some minds that don't even know where they belong. So they are innocent people, but they receive it and without checking, they just believe it. Let's look at them as innocent Nigerians. I think we can do more in tracing just because of this category of people.
In
From
this
100 to
respect,
0.
I want to tell you something, and this is a personal opinion. I hope it becomes an institutional opinion later in the course of what remains for the rest of this administration. And this is without prejudice, you know, to the freedom of expression, freedom of speech, you know, freedom to communicate as enshrined in the 19th National Constitution. To a very large extent, every responsible government must find a way of carefully putting measures in place that will guide the filtration of information which is capable of causing social social injury to exist. And it is not only Nigeria that should do that. I have seen how many in the so-called developed societies, many that have been doing this. Many. During the attack on the Capitol, the president of the United States of America, sitting president, was barred by Twitter. The sitting president of the United States, President Trump, was barred by Twitter. Why was he barred? Because the information he was setting on his Twitter, in his Twitter handle, did not encourage national unity and cohesion.
And it was locked out up till today.
And today, till the time I'm talking to you, President Trump remains locked up on Twitter. So what are we speaking about? Therefore, for every freedom that you are talking about, you have to also bear in mind. You have to also bear in mind that it comes with responsibilities. For every duty, there must be a commensurate responsibility, and the responsibility is as much mine as it is yours to ensure that we do not simply hiding under a constitutional clause, you know, through our actions or inactions, do not cause social injury into the larger society.
Let me ask, is there any Nigerian agency or office that is in the sun with any of these social media organizations to ensure that some news flowing in Nigerian environment is sanctioned by Twitter, by Facebook, by Instagram, based on the facts that we have? Is there any agency in Nigeria that is relating directly with them? Or should we have one?
I wish one we should have one, but I do not know actually because I'm not aware fully the act establishing the National Communications Commission. Because I know it is a regulatory body. I know it is a regulatory body. I have not also fully read the act establishing the national law, which is also a regulatory body, you know. But I know that if there are functions within the larger framework of the Ministry for Digital Economy, for communication, Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, if the functions or if the laws establishing them do not seem to reflect this need, then I should recommend that we should have one.
Okay, I believe that's one solution out of this. I would have asked the question, but don't let me go there so. Let me go directly to sanctions. What is NBC?
The National Communication Broadcasting Commission. Well, it is also a regulatory agency. It issues out licenses, broadcast licenses, radio and television. It monitors broadcasts within the broadcasting code, as allowed within the ambit of the code, the law. And where broadcast houses, whether radio or television, seem to go beyond what the court sets out or allows them to, of course the NBC sanctions them appropriately. What I do not know is that given the challenge of the times, and the recommended fees for sanctions, or the recommended nature of the sanctions that will be given to airing stations is enough. It's enough. Weighty, weighty enough, to come errors is what I do not know. But if a breach of the communication code, if the idea is to breach the communication code, the broadcasting code, and you end up only with a tap on the wrist, you do it again. And this is why we see. This is why I am worried. I am really worried by the kind of broadcast that I see on many of our television screens, in many of our radio stations. What I read in the newspapers was it tells me that the Nigerian elite, but especially the Nigerian political elite, up to now seem to have learned nothing and have forgotten nothing. We have to realize that through our utterances, through our actions, through our or inaction, but more through our actions, if we do not promote unity and oneness, and we do not respect this diversity that God has so much bestowed on us as a means of strength, and a means of holding us together. Instead, we recourse to divisive antics, with a view to scoring always cheap political points. The ultimate objective of destroying the basic fabric of the Nigerian city. All of us, and I mean all of us, will be in that.
Look, you might have a question or contribution or some contribution to make to this. If you signify from there, we'll see you. I can see a few people online. If you have something you want to say, but don't switch on your audio until you signify. Kindly signify from there so we can call. You can raise your hand up there. We can see. I can see someone trying to hold on. Yeah, someone wants to be unmuted. Yeah, unmute them, please. So while we're waiting for that, but please don't speak until we are ready for you, okay? While we're going for that, I was going to ask another question that links to NBC. Is NBC really permitted to sanction social media errors? Because I know they're for radio and TV, but are they for social media?
I really don't know. I don't want to give the wrong information about something I'm not really sure about.
Maybe that is actually our problem. Maybe we do not have a body that is, apart from relating to Twitter and all that, maybe we don't have a sanctioning or controlling body, regulatory body.
That's what I was recommending. That was what I was recommending. That even though I have not read both the act of NIDA and the NCC as regulators, I have read that of the NBC. I have read the broadcasting code, but But where there is none that will actually respond and sanction, this kind of aberrations and this kind of breach, to our values, to our senses and sensibilities, then we should have some kind of
Before we go on and before I listen to some other people, let me say this quickly, and that's just me speaking now. There's a saying from my side of Nigeria, beautiful country Nigeria, but I want to see united all the time, that says that, I won't speak it in my language, so let me just translate. It says that if you cry foul, 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 foul every time, when there is no need.
Say it, say it, I will translate.
Don't worry, sir. You're part of us. Anyway, so if you cry foul too many times, when you really do not have need for, what is going to happen when you really have a need? What is going to happen when you really have a need? And I'm saying that on the behalf of those people who really might need help indeed. If you have sent messages around people and they believed it without even questioning, some don't even have to question. Why should you send wrong message anyway? And you send them messages, they believe in it, and then you found out it's wrong. You report it to the necessary authority, you find out it's wrong. You reported the second one, it's wrong. When you're reporting the third one, nobody wants to listen to you. But at that time, you may actually be in need. So I think that we need to be careful as Nigerians to check what you receive first. If you were told, but can you imagine ourselves as Nigerians? We're really wonderful people, honestly. If you were told your child did something wrong, the first thing we do is we shield them naturally before. So if you can do that check, you naturally shield before you check. And a lot of times, the check is even late. The check is late. Anyway, I just thought I needed to say that. And let's not sound like we are not. I want to be careful what I say online. We're not people who are not. They're very smart Nigerians. They're very, very smart. Why should anybody just tell me something and I take it and start running with it? Come on now. Fake news happened a few years ago in Nigeria when there was some bomb explosion by accident in Maryland, Ikeja cantonment. Oh, too many people died. Just because somebody somewhere gave a wrong information about what was going on and they just started running. We lost thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. The opposite of that would have been for you to wait and say, what is pursuing me, sir, before I start running? You will never see that kind of day again in our lives. Before we go to you online, let me not cheat you of what is right. We have talked about social media, we are coming back there, but let me go to something that's important. Can we do some form of report of stewardship? We've been here 5 years, 2016, February 15th.
No.
Yes, I think so. We resumed February 15th.
No.
May. Okay, I thought, so I'm wrong. But 2016, wonderful. So, May 2016, can we give some form of report of stewardship to Nigerian citizens?
Thank you very much. I think it is an opportunity, and I thank you for this. But before I do that, let me also come back to the issue of the topic of discussion. Fake news is not a recent event. It's not a recent phenomenon. It has always been there. The issue of fake news is actually as old as society. It's only a matter of the manner, the magnitude, the scope, and the way and manner in which it's being used and how how destructive or how
Yes.
otherwise it has been part of society for a very long time. We are only seeing different manifestation of it now as a result of the pervasive influence of social media. So I think I want us to be very careful. I mean, to be very straight on. Okay, thank you very much for the question on stewardship. I have been following a lot of comments on Twitter on Facebook since the appointment was announced. I am a very active Twitter.
Congratulations for that.
Well, no, I don't congratulate me. I just pray for me and pray for the country. Pray for me and pray for the country. Because I know that within the context of what I have experienced in the last 5 years or thereabouts, I am perhaps the most vilified public servant in this country. And of course, justly so. And of course, I take it in my stripes. Vilified as those workers sleeping on duty, head of a non-existent organization, sleeping organization, an organization that doesn't know what it is all about. There is no insult that has probably heaped on the NOA, especially NOA and my education. And of course, I say yes, people have the right to say whatever they want to say, and I grant them that because the National Orientation Agency is one of the most important institutions of state.
Yes.
That is expected to be seen and to be heard, especially at moments like this. It has its own challenges, and these challenges reflect the reality in which it is, and therefore, this reality is what either impinges on its performance or encourages it. Whatever be the case, I know that within the context of our reality, we have made modest achievements. One is actually to first and foremost build the integrity or bring back the integrity of the institution, which I think largely I have succeeded in doing. Secondly, to encourage interagency collaboration, because principally the government, the National Orientation Agency is to promote, facilitate the understanding of government programs and activities, engage citizens on government programs, activities, and the other processes. See a feedback from the people and central government for purposes of policy review, for policy actions, for either or for policy consistency, or as the case may be. One of the biggest challenges that I inherited from Kano, and which I think I have done a great deal in addressing, is an enhanced interagency collaboration so that we can get policies from government, from MDAs, to give us content. And the way, by the content we receive, we give out. Many of these policies, programs, and activities that we appropriate, for people that visit our website, you will see these things are posted on our social media platforms. But I felt that outside what you will read in the newspapers, and many of the people that actually come out in this context, there are those who come from altruistic business. There are those who come from partisan business for perspective. There are those who come from purely elitist perspective, because they don't read the stories in the newspaper, they don't see on television. The newspapers, of course, yes. But we also patronize the newspaper. But we are talking about 200 million people, for goodness sake. And the largest circulating newspaper in this country is 300,000. 300,000. That's the biggest circulating newspaper. 300,000. maybe, in fact, let's even be as big and as ambitious. 500,000 points. Place it against 200 million. So this is not even the proverbial drip on the ocean. That's fine. But so in order to counter this, what do? We develop a program that we call the local government assembly. This local government assembly is an assembly that we take to the local government. We bring traditional rulers, religious leaders, women groups, youth groups, security agencies, NYSC, labor, most especially National Bureau of Teachers, Nigerian workers, because we partner in every local government, civil society, organizations that are working in different aspects, whether health or education, and we bring them under a roof. Usually, either depending on the nature of the local government. It is a local government where there is a town hall or there is a big conference room in the local government structure, we use that. Where there is none, we go to the district head's palace, or we go to the village palace, or to the local government chair or secretariat, or if it is in some urban area, we get to the village square, and then we erect canopies and we engage. Hello! Not about it is something that has been started both as part of 2016. And how do we do it? We bring 500, 800, 1,000, 2,000 people and in one room. Talk to them about government policies and the programs in the language they do understand, not in this big English that we're talking here in my office. No. In their places of domicile, in the language they do understand. Because our community mobilization officers are sourced from such local governments. They are nuanced in the culture and the traditions of such communities. And therefore, we feel that information coming from such people tend to have higher level of credibility. That information that will come from newspapers written by a news editor that they don't even know, talk less of even relating with. But a son of the soil, talking to them in their language, in their places of domicile. As they relax, they ask questions, then we'll send a special report to government. And then there is also what we call pulse of the nation report, which we also send to the highest level of government, to the highest level of government. And of course, this has to a very large extent informed government about citizens through actions, on certain policies and programs. But in the last 1.5 years or two, because of these massive security challenges that we have been passing through, you find that the National Orientation Agency has actually played a big intelligence work in feeding government, because once there is a security challenge, because we are in the villages, because we are in the communities, we are the first to hear about it, and once there is an outbreak of violence somewhere, in the next 1 hour, it is in the digital scope. Even before they invite the police or any other security agencies to get there, we are already in the know about the number of people killed, the cause of the problem, why it happened, and whether it is ongoing, whether it has been contained, who contained it, what, and all this. I think this is one of the things that we have done by bringing back the integrity of the agency. Then, in the case of sensitization, I think I have seen the strength of the agency and what we have been able to do in our advocacy and the sensitization during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in an attempt also to counter fake news narratives, to counter fake news. Fake news, hate speeches, and what have you. But fake news in particular, because we have to go to the people where we reside with them, talk to them in these languages that they do understand, in their place of domicile, to appreciate the nature of the pandemic, the symptoms, because you see, our marketing system, as Africans, as Nigerians, negates the social distancing protocol. The way we congregate to worship, whether in mosques or churches, negates the social distancing protocol. The way we celebrate in our villages and in our homes to usher in the coming of the rainy season before the planting season, all the traditional cultural activities of wining and dining and dancing, and making merry to usher in the coming of the planting season in different parts of Africa, in different parts of Nigeria, they give the social distancing protocol. So, and in the midst of a pandemic, then we say you must ensure social distancing. In the thick of this pandemic, then you say you wash your hands with soap every now and then under running water. So when we have challenge for running water in the cities, how do we talk to people who don't have running water in the villages? So we come up with also alternative ways to keep our sleep. In my village, when I was growing up, we used to, when our parents gave us money to go to school, usually coins that have this corporation, quite two penny, and when they did that, we go to Mama's kitchen and we bring ash. And this ash is what we actually make it a pest, and we roll the coins in it, and it comes out perfectly. Even today, ash actually is a strong antibacterial. It washes hands and cleans. It cleanses the hand and it keeps it clean. So there are also, if you don't have soap and running water and you don't have sanitizer, there are cultural ways of keeping the hands clean, which the NOA had actually taken and reminded the community. And what's important, I want to say that we have remained focused by keeping within the ambit of the law establishing the agency, and the duties of it are being kept, even in the face of very huge budgetary challenges. But in spite of that, we felt we are only one out of so many, and therefore we are competing with so many other government agencies for very small resources. You remember how I told you, how I started by saying this is one government that has been most unfortunate in the whole of this country when it comes to the revenue handling. So it has thrown most out on the agency that this is a government that wishes well and wishes us well and wishes the country well. We would have done things differently. So since we are not getting all the budgetary support, what do? We look for partnerships. And of course, what have we done? See our partnership with CTD, for example, which I found very excellent. In fact, in terms of fact-checking during the pandemic. And we were every day on Facebook and on Instagram dishing out counter fake news during the pandemic. We had partnership with parliamentary and policy and legislative advocacy center, FLAG, that supported our activities in 19 states of this country. We have partnered with UNICEF that has supported us massively in our activities in Southeast Nigeria. We have found a partnership with the Akimane Foundation, which has produced quite a number of jingles for us, and we carry them together with their logo as Akimane Foundation and the National Education Agency, and they very found that these jingles carry out the logo of NOA partnership in sister organizations. The NTA has been so wonderful in adding our agendas. The Radio Corporation, here, has been most supportive in carrying out our agendas during the pandemic, during the local government assembly, and the other activities and programs of government. But recently, and this is actually one of the key issues that the National Orientation Agency has now come and is proud to showcase. Our commitment to creating awareness for safe neighborhood, what we call influence operation, the creation of safe neighborhood, because it has become clear that kinetic response to these security challenges can most of our problem. Therefore, we have to have a whole of society approach. And this whole of society approach can only come about when you involve every level of the society to realize that there is a responsibility that needs to be carried out by all. Because insecurity affects everyone. I know, having come from the most insecurity challenge part of the country, I'm from Mali. Today, as I'm talking to you, my family is in Mali. I have never had any reason to do my degree. Even at the beginning of the assignment, up to retire, to retire now that it's been prepared. You know, so I know actually, and I know the number of friends I have lost to the insurgency. I know the number of relations I have lost to the insurgency. I have known the number of colleagues at home that I have lost to. I have known the number of many of my students that I have lost to the insurgency. In fact, that is so. The National Orientation Agency has created a very big interagency collaboration with the security agencies, with civil society, with Ministry of Defense of Information, Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Information being the lead, and then the agent, the NOA being the implementer, of creating a safe neighborhood sensitization with a view to bring into the consciousness of everybody that the security problem is everybody's problem. And this is what we are doing under the National Influence Operation Campaign. But we are not military. So ours is actually the sensitization towards the deployment of soft power as our sole contribution towards the solving the security challenge. And this is something. So you are asking me, is the local government assembly about to commence? No, it has been going on. The only thing is that we have not been able to cover all of the 774 local governments on account of security challenge. That's one. Two, because of the budgetary constraints, and then three, because of the COVID-19 that actually truncated all of our activities in 2020.
But the information that you pass around on Facebook, on social media, on the news, someone out there will say that most of those who listen or view social media and the other regular social media and conventional media avenues, most of those that need to listen to NOA are not on this site. There are people elsewhere who don't even have television and all of that.
That is the idea behind the local government assembly, my brother. That is the idea behind the local government assembly. And that is why we are being vilified by the social media handlers, we are being vilified by the elite who don't read our story in the newspapers and watch us on television, we are being commended by the people in the government.
At the low level.
That is the point. So we are actually like in between two worlds. The world of the advanced world and then the positive world. And we are happy that we are getting our kudos from where it matters.
Dr. Abari, you have spoken well, but I'm suspecting, I may not be right, that this funding matter, the second issue, I think may be biting harder than we think.
It is.
Someone said recently that the matter of revenue in Nigeria, like our problem is not revenue earning, but revenue collection.
Yes. Well,
What
Well,
do you say to that?
it is both. It is both. It is revenue. Did you say revenue planning or
Collection.
it is revenue collection. It is a problem or revenue adding and revenue collection. It is a problem or revenue adding to the extent that up till now we have not fully realized the potential of the country in terms of earning from the multiple sources other than private. The diversification program of the federal government is still, we are still seeing that. Let me give you the example. If, for example, the government had not put in place its agricultural policy the way it did in 2016, you know, with the very positive result what we saw in 2018, 2019 towards getting the country in getting the country towards food self-sufficiency, we would have been lower in 2020 when the COVID-19 started. Because you will have no country to sell food to you. Even if there had been a country that would sell food to you, there would have been no vessel to bring the food to you. By that time, all of us, but there was food in the country. What out of the agricultural policy of the government was self-sufficiency. So this is two, revenue collection. I agree that we are yet to do much revenue collection. One, we have not up to now had a good appreciation of our natural resources. And the land is a massive source of capital. Two, in this country, only those who are in the formal sector pay taxes or relevant taxes. Only those in the formal sector pay relevant taxes. And even that, not by choice, because it is detected from source. You know, but those who should be paying taxes are not paying adequate taxes. And the government must have to develop a segregated kind of taxation of tax collection in such a way that nobody is left out. But the more, what we should therefore be doing is actually begin the process of developing the capacity of the state towards being a regulator state. Build the capacity of the state to become a regulator state. So that to a very large extent, revenues that should come from relevant sectors of the economy are not denied the state, as it is now the case. But what we see largely are freebies everywhere, and this is now more complicated by the insecurity in the land. Because you can see clearly that almost every part of the country is becoming ungoverned.
I think that they said something and that touched me somewhere. Someone says that the data hub or the data center, or we do not even have a data center in Nigeria.
Well, yes, we have a bureau of statistics. So, and I find the sources that they give very credible. I find their sources credible. I find the data that they give quite credible.
I agree with you, or I'll pretend as if I'm not a part of that.
Yes, but I believe in the sanctity and the credibility of the data from the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics. I have used that data. I am a regular guest to their website, and I am happy with the credibility of the data.
Can we say that we can have a center where every single Nigerian data identification can be found, so that in the area of tax collection, we can tell who is paying tax and who is not paying tax. In the area of security, we can tell who is a threat and who is a friend. And we tackled in that area yet?
To be able to do this with this synergy and the harmony between the center and the subnational level. I have not seen that level of synergy between the state governments and the federal government. So what tax that should come to the federal government is different from taxes that states should be collected. And then the states are not collecting taxes because they just believe in giving freebies. And because of that, that is why they are always there laid back, looking back at the end of every 20th or 21st of the month to come to Abuja and collect money and go back.
Do we have anybody online who's got a question? I can see a few names. Few people.
Nobody yet.
Nobody's asking a question. I saw a few people who asked to be unmuted. See, that person asking.
Which one is
Unmute, all those ones. The ones that says ask for mute. Yes. Those ones want to unmute. Press that unmute. Yes. Unmute. Those people want to ask questions. Give us a second. The ones that are down, if you can see, see unmute. They don't want to be unmuted. Only the ones who said ask to be unmute. Press it. Press unmute. So we'll get back to you. Dr. Abari, what's your plan for the next 5 years? What are we going to come back and say, yes, you said you'll do this? Or what is going to be different from the COVID years?
For us, the creation of a citizenry that is conscious of its environment, of its responsibilities, towards creating a society that is democratic and is governed by the genuine democratic efforts, towards building and bridging the gap that exists, the trust deficit that exists between government and the citizens, towards taking government policies, programs, and activities for people to appreciate, and to make people also aware that there are different responsibilities in this our federalist setup, so that Nigerians are very adequately aware that there are certain things that are within the purview of the federal government and there are certain things that are within the purview of the state and local governments. But you just don't wake up one day and the training in your neighborhood is blocked and your house is flooded, and then you keep shouting Buhari is one way.
I really do even want.
And when there is, if the market sports in your village had certainly collapsed as a result of sandstorm or heavy rains because of fraud contracts that the state governor has given to a friend or whatever, and they begin to shout the name of Buhari. Then we have to also create the necessary awareness about citizens to actually begin to hold elected and appointed officials accountable.
Yes.
And this can not only happen at the center, because I am seeing it is much happening in the center than it is happening in the states and in the local government. In fact, we don't have really a local government system. So.
Dr. Abari, in the absence of questions that I can see a few things, because of time, we have just 8 minutes. We need to release you, and we need to release the people. It's 6:22. We have gone very far, actually. We've gone farther than we thought we would. I asked for what's going to happen in the next 5 years and what's going to be different. And I've highlighted 3 different things. Is there something you want to say to Nigerian citizens? Hold on, Dr. Abari, let me explain first. There is a thought, a wrong one, though, in the minds of many Nigerians now who say that the relationship of democracy is a relationship of them against us, the government against the citizens, or let me say, the leaders against the followers. So everything the followers says they need. So on your table now, you want to do it, forgetting that they have rules to play, which you just mentioned. But Dr. Abari, tell us a story, tell Nigerians a story that reminds them that you are actually a citizen and you came from among them, like I did. Tell a private story that will remind Nigerians that we are all one Nigeria. I was once out there with you before I came into government. Please remind Nigerians.
Oh, of course, yes. Everyone is not. Everyone knows this. Now, I also want to remind the Nigerians that irrespective of the office I'm of, out of this office, I am just as ordinary as any other Nigerian. And therefore, the problems that afflict Nigeria directly also impact on me.
Hold on, folks. Dr. Abari, hold on. Sorry, you're continuing from there, but I want to just crack a joke. It's a joke I want to crack. They also think that you buy or you don't buy fuel or you don't go to the market. You don't buy from the same markets that you offer. That you live in mass. They say you live in mass, you don't live in mass.
Of course, I don't live in. I go to the same market with them. My children go to the same school with theirs. With theirs, in fact, I educated all my children in public schools. I went to a public school. I have seen the import of that. I know the significance of that. I have built relationships around from all over the country from my going to public schools. I have built relationships from all over the country from the way I used to travel because I used to enjoy what the best that any country can get used to. Nigeria has given me everything that a country can get used to. Everything. And that is why it pains me to say that, to see the kind of that's happening today. You know, I used to travel from Maiduguri to Lagos by train. And my mother used to prepare this kind of stew that stays longer than before it gets spoiled. You know, and she would buy bread for me. But I would still stand myself until I get to Bokwa because there was a particular woman, Yayo. Yayo is your woman, same mother of Paulinia or something like that. So
okay, Yayo.
So all the way I will stand myself. I will not eat the bread. I will only be picking the meat until I get to Mopa. And then there's a particular time that the prayer reached Mopa. And my camera will be very old on the young. You know that was a functional infrastructure that united the country because people from different parts of the country use this infrastructure to travel either by road or by rail or by air. And this has a way of subconsciously building national unity.
Yes.
You appreciate cuisines, different cuisines. You appreciate different cultural subjects. You appreciate different traditional nuances. You appreciate different languages. You appreciate. This has a very subtle but sure way of building national unity. But because we have allowed infrastructure to decay, people had no longer need and use it can travel unless it becomes absolutely necessary. And this has impacted on our lack of understanding of one another and has impacted on our national unity. So I am just like any other Nigerian, and I just want to say that this is one country with 5 or 6 different climatic conditions. There's nothing you can plant in this country that will not grow, you know, and you know, whether it is in the Sahel, whether it is in the Sudan Savannah, whether in the Guinea Savannah, whether in the rainforest, whether in the Guinea forest, whether in the semi-temperate climates of Plateau and Taraba, you know, or Gudu in Cross River, everything about this country is rich people, large population, big market, arable land, entrepreneurial people. In fact, beyond what we have here is actually the pride that of being a Nigerian that we go anywhere in the world because we stand out we stand out as achievers. We stand out as achievers.
So
is it in sports? Is it in medicine? Is it in IT? Is it in medicine? Is anywhere you, whatever aspect of person of man that you ask in this planet Earth, there are Nigerians making groundbreaking records.
So to me, it's a beautiful country.
Let us not allow it to break in our hands, and it won't break. In fact, it is even too integrated for us to break. That is why I keep telling you that politicians mind their business, because this country, you even have to have a country first before you can go to any of the levels of political office in that country. And when the katakata begins, these people that are now making the mouth and the poor in society, but they're scared to go where? They won't even reach the airport. When the katakata begins, you won't even get to the airport before you can fly out. So it concerns all of us. We have to be very reasonable, we have to be very responsible, we have to be very, in fact, I am calling on Nigerians of goodwill, leaders at different levels, religious leaders, traditional leaders, market associations, professional leaders in the NBA, in NLA, in different levels of government, ministers, permanent secretaries, leaders in your own community, societal ombudsman, please speak out. Because the younger generation do not seem, those young men and women do not seem to understand the history of where Nigeria is coming from. And that is why you see all these hate that we see in social media. They don't even seem to know that we had fought a civil war, and that the country was the worst for it, and that what would perhaps follow all this kind of irresponsible utterances that we are seeing might worsen might make our experience of the civil war a child's play. God forbid, and we will never see this.
Let me assume that this is Dr. Abari's final words at this edition. Well, let me add a few words to this for Nigerians. There is a divide between the older generation, not old, they're still young. The older generation and the younger generation.
No, I said a young one.
Anyway, there's a divide, and so that divide is the reason why the younger generations think that everything that's going on right now is new. In fact, some say we have never had any protest in this nation before. I laughed. And I reminded some of them that my very first the last one actually, the last protest I had before the EndSARS was I believe it was June 1998, the death of Moshood Abiola. And I remember that I had just gotten married.
Oh, you married in 1998?
Yes.
Only yesterday?
Only yesterday, yes. In fact, today, 30th of May 1998 actually. So I had gone to visit my in-laws, and on our way back, this struggle began. Anyone who knows those areas in Pamplona and Onikpan and all of that, you know exactly what problems will happen, because it was in front of it is Mushi, and back is Garba Abari. It was the middle of chaos. My young wife was nearly snatched in my hands to be raped before my eyes. We had jumped out of the vehicle and were trying to just run home through some corners. And live, I saw people who were raped by the roadside, trying to just run by hoodlums. They think that the hoodlums we saw at EndSARS are the first hoodlums. Hoodlums are there forever. They're always there. This happened to me in 1998. And a number of people died on that same day. So if you check the day that Moshood Abiola died, you will see that so many people died on that same night just because of protests that went around. Let's give this nation as one. I do not want to take more time than I have taken already. I think that we are taking enough time. But let me come back to Dr. Abari so I do not cheat you. What are your final words to Nigeria? Not final words, your final words at this program to Nigerians.
We have a beautiful country. In a country this diverse, it is only natural that we have disagreements. In a country this diverse, it's only natural that we will have different perspectives and understanding of things. But despite about the diversity, we have something that is commonly holding us together, the Nigerians and all of us. And this is actually the beauty. So let us continue to dialogue, to engage, to understand one another, because Nigerians are no longer talking to themselves, we are talking only about ourselves. And this does not encourage for national oneness and unity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abari. One thing that can destroy our unity, surely, and it will do it surely, is fake news. What we tell ourselves and the motives we have behind it. I'm surprised that we just say things to cause a divide, to cause more divide, instead of bringing us together. It's unfortunate. But to have a Nigeria that you're asking for has to start from your corner, from you. This has been a wonderful edition. My name is Bode Olubore. You call me HBO. I speak for Nigerian citizens. Have a very lovely day and a new month ahead of you. God bless you. God bless Nigerians.